My friend is different by Reddit user pigsmasher1981. My friend is a little different, not in the sense that they aren't social or anything, no. They are different in another way. I first noticed it when we were hanging out and just playing video games at their house. I got hungry, so I asked if I could get a snack. They said sure. I got up and went to the pantry, passing by a white door with a large steel lock, and scanned the small closeted area for some chips or something else to scarf down. On the way back to the living room, I could smell something emanating from the locked door. It smelled like chemicals and some sort of sweetness. Not cotton candy, but I can't quite put my finger on what it was. Nothing like I've ever smelled before. I knew my friend's father was a doctor, so maybe it had something to do with his work. I went back to them and set the chips on the floor and plopped down on the floor next to them to continue playing. I forgot about the smell until a couple days later at our usual hangout spot by the high school we had just graduated from. I asked them about it. It's not much, my friend paused for a long while. Just a room my dad keeps his chemicals in. It made sense at the time, and looking back, I shouldn't have dug any deeper. But the way they paused made me question if they were telling the truth. But the smell, it was so different. We had chemistry class together for 2 years, man. I've never smelled nothing like that. It's nothing. I told you, my dad keeps it locked, so I don't even know what's all in there. How's your dad been anyways? I haven't seen him in a while. He's fine. Just been stuck at his work most of the day and night. Which reminds me, I have a shift in a couple minutes. I gotta go. See ya. See ya. I tried to keep the smell out of my mind for the day, but it kept coming back to me. The sweet smell mixed with the chemicals had my curiosity bursting out of my body. I knew I had to find out what was in that room. I knew my friend would be working late that night, so I drove over to his house. No cars in the driveway. I wanted to make sure if they came home, they couldn't tell I was there, so I parked about a mile away on the outskirts of the woods that led to their house. I popped the trunk and grabbed my bolt cutters, and a lock that looked at least a little similar to the same on the door. Hopefully my friend wouldn't notice. As I trudged through the woods, I came upon a small, crudely built wooden shack. A strange sight to see in the empty woods. I peered in and was shocked to smell the same smell from my friend's house. Animal skeletons strung up on the walls along with bottles of liquid chemicals. I picked up one of the bottles, and to my surprise, the head of a squirrel floated to the top of the bottle. The same smell as before. As I stubbed my toe on something by the door, dumbbells and weights. I hobbled my way to my friend's house and snuck in through the back. I heard something. I closed my eyes to try to hear better. A painful moan came from somewhere in the house. Weird. I made my way to the living room, and the painful moan switched to screaming. I wanted to run, but my body kept walking. I reached the living room, and a light illuminated the room. The television was on, because of course it was. And to top it with a cherry, the movie it played was Halloween. I switched the television off, but the painful moans continued elsewhere. The hair on my neck and arms stood up. I kept walking to the door and cut the lock. The smell had changed, stinkier, like rotten ham, and the chemical smell had become stronger. I pushed the door open. It creaked like a horror movie. Spooky. Completely dark, the smell hit me hard. It filled up my nostrils and mouth. I could taste the chemicals. The moans continued from across the room. I stumbled around the room until I came to a wire that connected to a light bulb about halfway across the room. I pulled, and the light filled the room. My God, the room. Blood was everywhere. The floors, walls, even the ceiling. A table right next to me held a hacksaw and vials of chemicals. My initial reaction was to run and get as far away from my friend as possible, but I had to know what was under the blankets. I walked towards them and came to the first one in the corner of the room. The blanket had brown marks all over it, dried blood. I pulled off the blanket to find a woman's decaying carcass in a bathtub, the water still in it, causing her to become bloated. Her stomach had burst who knows how long ago, allowing her organs to spill over her legs. Parts of her skin had been taken off, like someone had been cutting them off. Bite marks filled her arms. Thank God her face was looking down. I don't know if I could have gone on if she was looking anywhere near me. I was stunned to see her, but I was knocked out of my trance when the moaning began again. A small table was next to another blanket. Drills and bottles of some kind of chemicals toppled over on it. I tiptoed over to the blanket, definitely the one the moaning was coming from. I pulled off the blanket and couldn't comprehend what I saw. A man. Well, what was a man? Nothing was human about him after whoever tortured him did. A hole in his head exposed his brain, frothed with a white foam. He bled from all his orifices in the small box he was stuffed in. Not moving, but still moaning, he looked over at me with his cold eyes. His eyes were filled with small holes, presumably from the drills. He just kept moaning like a madman. He too had parts of his skin missing and bite marks on him. He looked familiar but unrecognizable. There had to have been 12 cages with blankets over them in the room. Just how many people were in here? I had no more time for questions. A car sounded from the driveway. Quickly I shut the door and turned off the light. I tried hiding underneath the table, but there wasn't enough space. The front door opened. I felt my way around, but there was nothing to hide under. The bathtub. Footsteps echoed from the living room. They were getting closer. On my way to the bathtub, I hit my side on the table. It shifted, and the table made a squealing noise. Shit! I hurried over to the bathtub. Am I really about to do this? I stepped onto the woman's legs and laid down with her. Her body squelched and air escaped her mouth onto my face. The smell overpowered me as I gagged and vomited onto my shirt. I moved to be as concealed as possible. I could feel her intestines on my neck and the water soak into my clothes. The footsteps came to the door as I closed the curtain to the bathtub, hopefully hiding me from whoever was coming in. Adrenaline pumped through my veins as the door opened. When the light flickered on, I looked up and saw the woman's face looking directly at mine. Her eyes bulged out of her head, and the blood vessels from her face had popped. Her pale skin made her look like a zombie. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I closed my eyes and listened. Nothing. Did they leave? Whoosh. The curtain slammed open, and there he stood. My friend, Dahmer.